Oh man, I created a firestorm. Everybody's calling me, Joe, do a video on our community. Why don't you do a video? Well, geez, guys, I just said it in the last video, you should make your own video. I'll do one. I'll get to you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you need videos that bad, fire up your phone and do some videos. Get your town on the YouTuber. So this video is going to be a community spotlight for a Columbus, Ohio area community called Dipple, which I had no idea about. But it's funny. I was at the car wash, got some new wipers. I was at the car wash and then I got some new windshield wipers. I'm very excited about it, actually. And the guy next to me heard my stereo playing the videos. I can run my phone through my stereo. So I'm playing the videos that I've made, and he's like, dude, you got to do video on Dipple. I'm like, Dipple? Well, I don't even know if I've ever heard of Dipple. So he told me all about it. I don't know if he's a local, if he's an expert. I didn't really get a chance to find out much from it, but he did have on a t-shirt that said, don't look at your nipple, head for Dipple. So I assume he's from the area. If he had that shirt, he knows the town. So let's go with what he told me. Now, guys, Dipple was founded back in the 1800s, like most of these communities in the Northwest. And it actually, it's right about in the middle of the time period that most of them were founded. Dipple was founded in 1849. It was settled in 1830, all the way back then. They just didn't get a chance to do official founding and the corporation of the community until it had grown to a certain extent. And when I say grown, there was only 3 families in the area for like 15 years. But one of them was Mrs. C.W. Dipple, and she was divorced from her husband, Colonel Dipple, who was a colonel in the English Army. So they got divorced. She headed out for America, decided to start on her own. And she brought her 3 kids with her, and then there was a couple of cousins and an aunt and an uncle on another side. So this sort of merry band of crazy kids going out to America to get away from the strife and the problems back home. From her standpoint, it was an unhappy marriage. The colonel was kind of a crazy cat. It wasn't violent or any of that stuff, but he just was hard to live with, and we all know people like that. So she started over. She was young. She was 27. Now, at that time, maybe she wasn't as young. But I would say in today's age, we would consider 27 to be relatively young still, if you're starting your love life over. And heck, I'm a lot older than 27, and I've started my love life over many times, sometimes weekly. So I'm just keeping it real, man. So you don't want to go on a second date? No, I don't. Okay, what about a 1.5 date? See, it wouldn't be a second date. It would just be like a 0.5 extension of the first one. She's like, no, I don't want that either. So what about, no. She's like, no, click, shut the door. So Dipple is a neat community because it started with a family feel from the very beginning. And Mrs. C.W., we never really found out her original name. If anybody knows, we just call her Mrs. C.W. Dipple. Was maybe based on her circumstance of having to take the reins of the whole family, right? When you're divorced and the other person is not helping at all, and in this case they were in another country once they had left England, they can't really help anyway, but you're basically doing the role of 2 parents. And, that is a tough role. So she was used to just taking the reins, not asking for permission, just moving forward, doing what needed to be done, and she became the mayor of Dipple, the original Dipple mayor. And, remember, we're talking, 10 people, 15 people? But it did grow, and she grew the town and was able to encourage other people to move to Dipple to create a tax base. And they started to build the community-type buildings that are common to frontier towns. So they had a church, They had a bowling alley. They had, a bar. They had a movie theater. They didn't have movies yet, so they would just do, kind of stand-up comedy routines and plays and other live events at the theater. They had a horse track, okay, where you could bet. They had a one of those death drops where you go up in the ride and then it drops real fast, like about 50 stories. They had one of those made out of rope and rough-hewn timber, and they didn't have insurance, nor did they have any law really regarding that back then. So they'd lose a couple every year. They'd lose a couple of riders on that one. But they usually made a donation of a cow or something to the family, and it all worked out. And a lot of times the family would say, well, we never liked him anyway, which is, it's neither here nor there. It's just reality of frontier life. So Dipple grew slowly but steadily. It's a beautiful area. You got farmers, you got ranchers, you got accountants out there, you got some computer programmers. All right, and it grew and grew and grew. And eventually they started looking around. They said, wait a minute, why is Columbus getting all the press? Why is Columbus, Ohio, suddenly the darling? All right, and then as they went into the next century, Columbus, Ohio gets a new football stadium in 1912. Well, why is Ohio State University, okay, getting all the credit, getting all the tax dollars? What about Dipple University that she started? All right, she was the only teacher, and so that limited the growth of the university. But this is a lady that didn't take no for an answer, took control, was a leader and a doer and a champion. So she traveled to Washington. She said she traveled to Columbus and to Washington, and she said, all right, what do I need to do to get more dollars to grow my university, to grow my town? I'm doing it for you. I'm building it for the state, tax dollars for the state. Come on, guys. Right? She knew how to put it to them. So they just, honestly, you think it's bad now because we get all these clods now that don't listen to women. All right, but women are the best business people. Women are the best leaders. They just have the qualities that are inherent to those positions. We just have to have more women in those positions. But anyway, back then she didn't care. She just took it. I'd taken it, right? She took those roles. All right. She just named herself. She had a vote with one person voting, and she voted herself as the person that was going to get the money for growth. I mean, she had a saying. She said, "Nobody cares who brought in the cash when we look around and we're all eating steaks." Okay? So that's kind of a modification of several sayings I've heard before. It sounds like she might have just sort of modified something, but it made the same point. Nobody cares who scored the points when we're dumping champagne on each other's heads. Okay? So she was the one that was able to get money in for Dipple University. And Dipple University was a leader in genomics, in histrionics, okay, economics, Obamonomics. It was a leader in a lot of nomics categories, okay? And then it grew and grew. And it's still there today. Now, it didn't become what she thought was going to be bigger than Ohio State University. That didn't happen. But very few universities are bigger than Ohio State University because Ohio State University has a 10% growth clause. And a lot of people don't know that the university charter says that it must be 10% bigger than any other university in the United States at any one time. So that if some university, like let's say the University of Texas, has a sudden growth spurt, then the state must allocate the money to grow Ohio State University by 10% over any other university in the nation. That's why you see it constantly expanding, constantly growing, and adding on to the Ohio State University stadium, the Ohio Stadium. You know, the Ohio Stadium was big when it was built in 1912. But now it's like 30 stories tall. I mean, you can see the game, but you have to use binoculars. Yes, they pump the game up to your suite on the TV. I get it. It's closed circuit. Yes, you can order sandwiches from the custom made sandwiches delivered right to your room, right to your loge. But you are 30 stories above the game itself, and you kind of lose some of the appeal of live action. And she knew this. She knew that a university that's too big is ripe for disruption because students at a certain level want some interaction and personal touch. So she tried to appeal to the politicians in Columbus and in Washington by explaining that Dipple University had that. It just needed to grow so that they could afford more programs, more equipment, and more beer on Fridays for the students, paid for by the university. And she was successful. She got money, not as much as she wanted. It wasn't as big as she wanted it to be. And Dipple is still there today. You can major in a lot of things at Dipple, and you'll get a fine degree program, Dipple University. You'll get a fine education. Okay, you can major in carnomics. Okay, lifeonomics. You can major in fashionomics. I mean, they have a lot of nomics degree programs available for you. So guys, it's just another great story in Central Ohio. I mean, it's such an amazing area. It seems like it's in the middle of nowhere, and to a certain extent that's true, but you don't realize till you get down in the nooks and the crannies, talk to the people, and find out what is really happening in the heartbeat of the city. And that's what you're getting from me. This has been another Joe Ditzel parody. Don't forget to come back for more. We have so many more communities and baloney to share with you.